are we live?
Oh, yes.
Oh, hi. Who knew? Not me.
I knew. I didn't quite say. How's that? Does that look a little bit better?
I think that looks nicer, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel a little more lit.
Shove that light right in your face.
Lit.
Blah.
Lit.
Thanks, Grandma.
I'm sharing things.
Internet vernacular dies as soon as it hits nowadays. So, yeah, if you sound cool for half a second, guess what? There's somebody on the internet who's like...
There's a horrible still right now. Of.
Oh, no. Are we live or not live?
Yeah,
no,
we're live.
Okay, good.
We're live.
Let's see if it's going straight.
It's
Hey, everybody at home. We're taking a half a second to test our audio. Our 7-year-old was being a 7-year-old.
What happened?
Oh, we'll talk about that in a second once we get through.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
Oh, man. Well, we're
that's a
gonna
problem.
hit start in just a sec.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Oh, Z's doing her thing. She's sharing.
I'm sharing.
Z was writing emails up to the very minute.
Well, I was
right
working.
Before. Yeah. I'm not hating on working.
It's a stressful life being a co-artistic director and a foundation manager and a mom and anything else that I possibly might be doing.
This is true. This is why I'm only a couple things. Just two. If there's any more, if there's like a third one coming out like a growth, I'm like, no, get back in there. No. Can only do two things at once. Barely. And that it's like if you try and juggle too many things at once, like if you try and do two things at the same exact time, right? You're just being terrible at both things, and really you're only focusing on one thing.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to be
You're ready to
focused on this. Yes, I'm ready to start.
Right, so
usually we give ourselves a minute to share and stuff before it's actually live. But here we are.
The people at 3:00.
Hi, people.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So we're gonna clap.
Okay.
And then the magic happens. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. That's right. It's the Puppet Parent Podcast, and we're ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm Z.
I'm Chad.
And we are parents, and we're puppeteers, and we have another podcast.
That's
a weekly podcast on Sundays.
Yes. PPP.
P cubed.
That's right. So, man, we have so much to talk about. It's been a crazy week. Hasn't been a crazy week for the puppet company, like in terms of like private gigs, but we've been streaming lots, and I feel like finally the promise of like all these different like varieties of different stuff happening all in one week is here, and it feels good. I hope it's good for you guys out there. Because for us, it's been like, wow, all this different stuff all the time. It's so much different.
So what is he talking about? Our new summer schedule. That's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Now we changed it up. Instead of doing a workshop every single day, we did that up until we had 100 daily workshops. And now we have our new summer schedule that we implemented. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to everyone about a little bit, speak to what we are now offering?
We're basically building from... We're building on Monday through Thursday, and then performing or showing videos about performance Friday through Sunday or Monday. Anyway, so Z's building, live streaming her builds on new puppets. We're building new shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday is we're rebroadcasting Christina Rodriguez's amazing People of Power Toy Theater series, which investigates the amazing true histories of people of color, Americans usually, throughout history. Let's see, on Wednesdays, we do a workshop remaster where we take an old workshop from the dark days, the early days of us streaming before we perfected all of our lighting and cameras and everything, and we're remastering it so it can look great again. And then Fridays, our usual weekly performance is not going anywhere. And then Saturdays, Mystery Max Investigates, and I want to talk a lot about that because we had many, many adventures this week.
Yes. First, one thing you need to do, though, is your computer is making these popping sounds when somebody chats. And so unless you guys want to hear little popcorn noises in the background.
No, the mic is actually way over here, so they actually probably don't hear that. But I will turn my mic volume down.
Thank you.
There it is.
Okay, so what was the question? I'm sorry.
Mystery Max Investigates.
Oh, yeah, Mystery Max Investigates. That premiered Erica says it sounds great. Thanks, Erica. And Johan says, hello,
Johan.
guys.
Please, only his mother calls him Johan. That's Swanee.
Oh, Swanee.
Hey there, Swanee.
Hi, Swanee.
He's my friend from South Africa. He's awesome.
Awesome. I heard about you.
Yeah. So Swanee, he gave up puppetry, and then the pandemic hit, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to pick this back up and start streaming.
That's
yeah.
Awesome. So you asked about Mystery Max Investigates. So I want to talk a little bit about that because it's a special project. It's very special to me, and we've been doing it together. When we came to Springville Center for the Arts, which thank you, Springville Center for the Arts, because they have allowed for us to have this residency this summer, to have access to high-speed internet, because at Chad's parents' house where we're living, they are so rural that they actually don't have access to internet. And the internet they do have is very, very spotty. You can barely even check your email. It's just horrible. So we don't even try. We don't even use it. And we got a residency here through Springville Center for the Arts. So we wanted to see what are some ways that we could work with Springville Center for the Arts to then give back to the community. And we brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas. And one of the ideas was, what if Max, our detective puppet, interviews some of the really interesting people who make Springville such a unique and special town. And so we compiled a list of some of those people. Some people we knew of, some people the Springville Center for the Arts suggested, and then some people other people have suggested. And we've been going around, especially this last week because we were on holiday, it's like I'm British. We were on holiday. But it was a holiday week because of the 4th of July. So we had a much more flexible schedule, and so did other people too. So that was really great. And we were able to do 7 interviews last week. And the first one got released this last yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was JP from his barbershop, Soli Deo Gloria, which is just right here on Main Street in Springville.
Everything's on Main Street in Springville.
There are other streets. There are other streets. I'm learning my way around here. But he's just a really cool guy, and what a fun interview that was. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to check it out. I've been telling people it's kind of like Mr. Rogers meets Dirty Jobs. It's just like the combined idea of coming from an innocent, a childish kind of asking questions standpoint, but then also we really want to know about all the things that make Springville tick. And it really is such a cool, amazing place. And I'll tell you, if you're ever going to move to a new place for a while and you want to meet everybody really quickly, just interview them with a puppet and make a series.
That's right. And it'll be memorable. Next time you see them, you're like, hey, you remember that time you got interviewed by a puppet? And they'll say yes, because it would be the only time in their life or in anybody else's life that was there that day where that happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been super fun. So if you haven't checked out Mystery Masks Investigates, go to Wonder Spark Puppets Facebook's page and scroll down a little. You'll see it. It's there. And also Springville Center for the Arts has shared it, or if they haven't yet, they will. It's on
YouTube.
Okay.
And with Facebook playlist, YouTube playlists with all these. So we shot 7, and I'm editing number 3 right now. So we already got the next one in the bank.
Yeah.
It's we interviewed the mayor, who the mayor was my old one of the old Boy Scout leaders in my Boy Scout troop. So it's kind of like everybody knows everybody, and it's like, hey, I haven't seen you for 20 years. What have you been up to? Oh, being the mayor for 14 years.
And he was like, what have you been up to? Being a puppeteer.
Yeah, living in New York City. He's like, oh yeah, I visited there once. Yeah, everybody has the one. Everybody has a New York City story, too, where they're like, oh, yeah, I went there once.
And this is all shot on an iPhone, no monitor. I mean, for those of you who are watching fellow TV puppeteers, we're just making it happen. And every once in a while, I get to peek onto the phone to see where Max is actually looking. But there's a lot of trust that's happening. Chad knows how to film puppets, so that's in our corner. But it's a little challenging not having a monitor, but everybody's been so kind and willing and generous with their time, and there are these little short segments, 2 to 5 minutes in length total.
Yeah. So except for this next one coming up, it's going to be 10 minutes.
No,
and it's all gold. No, but because one of the amazing things, and I learned something in the interview too about this town, about the auction. Every week there's an auction in this town, and it's been going on forever. And everybody goes
Like in person, not on the internet. People.
Yes, it's not eBay. No, everybody goes to like a physical auction. There's like a big barn, right? And they auction off animals live. They take them, they lead them into the center, into this big cage, and everyone sits on the outside like theater in the round. And there's a real auctioneer, and they auction off animals. But then outside, they also auction off junk.
Stuff, not junk.
And junk too. I mean, what is junk, really? I mean, it's just somebody else's stuff.
One person's trash is another person's treasure.
Yes.
So
yes.
There's a wide variety of stuff. And then beyond that,
not all of it is in working condition, junk.
Stuff. And then beyond the things that are repairable, we have the flea market.
You know what you call like something from the past that is non-repairable? You call it an antique.
Yes. So there's lots of antiques, antiquities, things that are covered with things.
Yeah.
So
old toys, old board games, and that's just one part. So it's just one long stretch of hundreds of items, hundreds of different lots, and this huge crowd that follows the auctioneer around as they slowly auction off everything before the animals. The animals is later in the afternoon. And then on top of that, there's this whole like carnival atmosphere. Yes.
My mother says treasures. Yeah,
treasures.
Mom. See, daughter, right
That's
here.
right. It's priceless junk. Yeah, I have some priceless junk.
This is the man that has little sentimentality to things.
It's true.
So
I try and emulate monks. There we go. Thanks, Swanee. Antique junk.
Swanee also says that he should try this idea here in South Africa.
Oh, it's good.
Junk-teak is what he says.
Yeah, love it.
Well,
so on top of that, there's this big carnival atmosphere where the whole town comes out, and it's not just a town, as we learned through the interview with the auctioneer Damon, who runs the place.
You'll see. We don't want to give it all away.
No.
It's an exciting interview. You're going to learn more about the auction.
Yeah.
You're going to see the sights. You're going to see Max interacting with some of these amazing people and animals and things. It is very memorable.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and I learned that because his grandfather started it years and years ago. So growing up in this tiny village where there's less than 5,000 people, I never knew what the reason was why everyone was closed on Wednesdays. Everybody, barbers closed on Wednesdays, like all businesses closed on Wednesdays, and I always thought it was like a religious thing because it's a very small town. There's like 6 different denominations of Christianity in the town, and I always figured like, oh, it's like their Sabbath, right? On Wednesdays, everyone just no, it's all about the auction.
The auction.
And he said that it was his grandfather. Everyone in town, all the farmers would go to the auction, buy animals, buy food, buy it's like a country store kind of, but like bigger and greater. Get everything you need for one day. So everyone's there. So if everyone's there, there's no way they're gonna be getting their nails pressed or haircut or anything. In phase 3.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
The phases are all different depending on what state you're into. So
that's true.
Who knows what phase. But anyway, it's really interesting. So the auction takes place every Wednesday and has taken place every Wednesday since its inception. And you're going to learn more about the auction. You're going to see some of these amazing sites when that video gets released 2 Saturdays from now. Next Saturday will be the mayor. And the Saturday after that will be the auction. And then more and more and more amazing characters to the point where maybe someday we'll go home and this thing gets to keep going for a while because we interviewed so many amazing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that where we're finding is like the vibe about like, hey, can I interview with this puppet out here is much different than I feel like we get in New York City. Where New York, it's like we're used to like having like in certain neighborhoods, like, oh, the weirdos down in the village. Or like, oh man, what are they doing in this neighborhood or that neighborhood? And here it's like, oh, this is unique and interesting, and this doesn't happen in our town. Cool, I'm into it, and this is great friendly vibe.
Well, there's also a legitimacy to it too through the Springville Center for the Arts.
Yes. So, I can't downplay that.
Oh yeah, my mom wants us to mention the yummy donuts, which don't worry, we got the donut man in there.
So we've interviewed a barber, the mayor, an auctioneer, a dairy farmer with robots, a metal shop worker who
Welder.
used a plasma cutter right in front of us.
That was amazing.
And what
Librarian.
Librarian, thank you.
Is that
And,
7?
Maybe I'm probably missing one.
Mm-hmm.
But we've stank like cow poop for the entire day. I'm sure we got like metal stuff all over our clothes. It's spark and like that kind of stink. And we've been in like all these different places, and it's awesome. And I shot it all on my iPhone. It's like you don't need a huge crew and you don't need a tripod. I love that from a filmmaking perspective. I love that I could just pull the camera out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And we just do our thing. And it's like, is it the best sound in the world? No. But the iPhones, I don't know if you're using an iPhone X, the camera does this great deep focus thing automatically when I shift just slightly between the interviewee and the subject.
Yeah.
All on its own.
Yeah.
No more first ACs.
Yeah, it's pretty
Doing this.
great. So,
Yeah.
and it's just been fun to do and really nice to get to know some of the people in our neighborhood. And I mean, now I keep the list is getting longer and longer of all these amazing people in town and the things that they do. And I can't wait to learn about them and, just interesting stuff, like talking to the mayor and just learning about all the different aspects that make Springville happen day to day. And then, well, you'll see next Saturday, but it's so cool. So that's been a really fun project that we worked on a lot this last week. And Erica says that the residency sounds great. Love how you guys talk about it. Well, it has been great. We're just so thankful. We're really thankful to so many people, to Chad's parents for letting us stay with them. I mean, we're like 2 adults and then 2 kids and a cat and a rat. So we have stuff, and they were really nice about letting us stay. So we've been making dinner a few nights a week and saying thank you as much as we can.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
That was Chad banging his water bottle for those of you listening and not watching.
But it's like, not every family, extended family, has grown closer during this whole pandemic. Mm-hmm. It's like on the internet, I hear a lot of stories about families suddenly splitting apart or needing to have distance or feeling like, I've had enough. Enough is enough and I need to leave or something. So I'm it makes me very thankful that our family is so tight, and like issues were resolved before this, you know?
And also now we're kind of being woven into like 2 things. One, a new family with a Springville Center for the Arts. I feel like that we're becoming a new family and working more and more with them. And that's so exciting because I remember when we met with Seth years ago when he was gutting the church here and like getting it ready, and he was so excited about like what was to come. And then the Arts Cafe, it's so close to opening. And I remember when he was in the middle of that project, and I mean, having known him, we went to school with the executive director for the Center for the Arts. And so getting to see him come back to his hometown makes such a huge impact here. And the community has been very welcoming overall, it seems, to the Center for the Arts and all of the different things that they are still able to offer, even in the midst of this pandemic. And then to also level up with your family a little bit too, because, like when you're living with somebody we've spent 2 weeks together with your parents as adults, but I don't know that I've ever spent more than that with them. And so now we're a little over a month in. I feel like I'm really getting to know your mom a lot better.
You guys sit while like home renovation shows are playing and talk a lot.
Well, she really likes those shows, so I'll watch it,
I feel like she always downplays that too. My mom, we're like, oh man, you must really like those shows. And she's like, well, I just keep it on in the background while I'm knitting.
Well, she does.
All the time.
You know what though? I do the same thing. While I'm doing other things. I have stuff in the background, and
Wait, will you freely admit to
no.
what you've been binging right now? Do I have to out you
no.
on your?
No, but I watch.
It's really embarrassing.
Trashy reality television, and that's all it needs to be said. But
wait, if you're watching us live, in the comments, can you guess what Z what embarrassing reality TV
You know
show
what?
Z
We
has
all
been
have
watching.
things that we see. You can tell I'm uncomfortable because I'm playing with my hair.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, we
I
all
have
have
embarrassing things that
we
that I've
like
done
to
too,
watch
so.
on our own. And all I'm saying is I relate to having something on in the background that you're like half paying attention to, half not. And it's been really nice to have just somebody to talk to about life and child development and like some of the, we don't talk a lot about being parents, I think, enough in this podcast, but like being a parent in the midst of all of this is hard. And I just want to say that out loud. It is hard. Jenny Rogers, that's one of them.
We got some good guesses. I guess we won't say this. We won't say it out loud so that the archive version of this over at puppetparentpodcast.com will not have what those choices were. But maybe you could look on the Facebook video back up to see what other reality. So this is like Family Feud, right? So
that one is like the most points. That anything with that series.
So number one.
But that's right. Alyssa Honeycutt outed herself and says she watches it with me. Thank you, Alyssa. And actually, I just want to say that I have a pen pal in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who all we talk about is this show.
It's
like
this very popular show.
Now we don't write to each other often,
that
and
women
it's
only
literally
watch
writing
unironically.
in a letter form. Like every couple months we write to each other, and we've only written like 3 letters to each other. But it's we were introduced via pen pal from one of my best friends, and who said that we need to know each other.
So you have a pen pal in a different city, in a different state, and you only write to them mostly about trashy reality shows. I mean, some people are survived by their letters from like the war and stuff. Abigail Adams'
God.
letters.
Anyway, well, I can't wait to write her back about what's happening right now.
I want to say this very popular show that you have watched, and I have watched too with you. I think the only people, like, no one will freely admit to watching this show, but it's so popular and it's been on for so long. I feel like women only watch it unironically with air quotes.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
Anyway, Swanee says, I love The Block in Australia. Well, I might secretly check that out. I don't watch Big Brother. I don't. Erica says,
my family watches Big Brother.
I'm back in a similar small town too with my family. I do watch Bravo and work on other things because it's always on. You don't have to pay attention. Exactly. See, you know what I'm saying? So I've gotten to catch up on some decades of reality TV that I hadn't, but while I'm doing lots of important things. So anyway, your mom and I have been talking. It's been really nice. We have a common understanding of how messed up this whole situation is, which is great because then each of us can take turns complaining about it.
Yeah,
and,
like one person isn't like on the opposite side of the fence.
No.
Yeah.
And if anything, like sometimes I just talk to like I try to give her perspective about like why certain things are like definitely during the Black Lives Matter uprising that had happened. Now there's still protests that are happening, but we're not hearing about them as much on the news right now.
Right.
But giving her some perspective on that, but always in like a kind and thoughtful way. Like nobody's yelling at me. Nobody's telling me that I have to leave the house because I have a different opinion. Like that is stuff that might have happened in a different time.
That's like bare minimum niceness. The bar is
well,
so low.
I'm so appreciative. That's all I need to say
Yeah.
is that I'm just super appreciative to be able to have like thoughtful conversations, and then also getting back to like being a parent right now is hard. It is hard. Like I still don't know what we're doing in the fall. I think I have an idea. Like I made a plan in my head so that at least I have something that can then change. But I needed to have a plan. It's we have an older child who has like some stuff going on, and I have no idea if it's related to this. I mean, you would think maybe that like all of this change and uprooting from his regular routine is like causing some of this, but also like it's just part of who he is. He's kind of more of a challenging kid. And then we have a younger kid who needs more attention than he's getting. And even though he's like with more adults now and getting even more attention, I still think maybe it's not enough attention. And it's tough. It is tough.
Yes, what is it?
Oh, they want to know. I love The Bachelor. I watch it with my mom. Thanks, Swanee. Other things come and go. coming. Like I.
Okay, all right. So I'm not going to say what it is or give any hints, but I will
Uh-huh.
say it is one of the most popular reality TV shows in America. Maybe somebody on this show recently, that is today, announced that they're running for president.
I did see that. I
And
did
I'm
see
like,
that.
the entire internet.
I wasn't
is
surprised.
Giant face palm.
No, I wasn't surprised.
No,
You guys haven't been watching the show.
No,
like I have.
that person is mentally unstable.
Oh, Chad.
What?
I don't know.
Well,
I
actually,
speak
you
very
have
kindly
seen-
about people, even if I've never met them, especially if I've never met them.
Well,
so,
you have seen them on this reality TV show,
Mm-hmm.
on a reality
think-
show. Way more than all I've seen is their tweets and their behavior and really, let's say, questionable things that they have done in the public eye.
I don't
so
know.
I'm kind of like, well, of course, but
I actually don't know a lot about a lot of people.
Yes.
You see what you're supposed to, what you're meant to see,
Yes.
and then. But what I do know, what I do feel is that if I were to ever meet most of these people, who I probably won't, in some ways they're just people, right?
Yeah, of
Mom
course.
wants to know if I watched Survivor. I only ever watched the first season of Survivor with Richard. I remember Richard won. But anyway, we don't have to talk
Poor
about
Richard.
my reality TV habits.
He was a reality show victim. Not like victim, but like his life was kind of ruined by reality TV.
Well, yeah. I don't
From
know.
what I've read on Wikipedia, who knows?
I don't know. I just know that he won season 1, and everyone was like, "Oh."
Everyone was like, he's
So-
ruthless. And then he tried to have a regular, go back to his regular job after that. And everyone in the world is like, you're bad.
You know what show was crazy? There were some real crazy shows around like the 2000 time, and one of them was called Solitary, and that used to be on Hulu for a while. It was 2 seasons. It was a game show, but it was like, can you outlast these other people and you're alone in a room?
Oh God,
Oh,
that is classified as torture under
Yes.
the Geneva Convention.
Yes. Yes. So that show's weird. I like weird shows. I'm those people that like feel ashamed for watching the weird shows. Like I watch it and then I feel bad about watching it, but I can't help watching it. I don't know. So there's like entertaining stuff that I like
Yes.
to watch, and then there's stuff that I feel shame about watching because it like I shouldn't be watching it. Like
Can
I'm
I-
sure it's killing my brain.
Can I tell you? Let me tell you a tale about this, and you should go on YouTube and just watch this documentary. So there was around that same time where reality TV was taking off, but before, because Japan is always first when it comes to weird cultural trends. There was a show where they asked the question, could you survive on lottery winnings alone? Like not just lotteries, but like winning stuff from like applying out of like the back of a magazine. Like, hey, you could win this oven. Just
Yeah.
like send in like your name and stuff and send it in. So they put a guy in an apartment and lock the door, and would only give him. He had like a little bit of food. Like I want to say like he had some stuff to start. He couldn't leave, couldn't see anybody, and the only thing he could watch on TV, his only screen at all, was game shows and other things that he could apply for. So all day long he spent applying for different things to win. Like maybe he's 1 in 5,000, 1 in 10,000, trying to win food, trying to win money. He had to reach a certain goal, like a certain amount of money, and then they would let him out.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was not lucky.
Oh no.
And what happened next is
But don't tell me. I
pure
actually want to
insanity.
watch the show.
I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it does not go the way that
Oh,
you
no.
think.
Oh no.
But
Wait, is he alive?
yes, he
Okay.
is alive. He did survive. Was it an ordeal? Yes. But just I forget what it. I'll Google it so I'll know the
to
name. But
me,
it was
It's
amazing.
like a social experiment, like in the same way that Malcolm Gladwell. No, not Malcolm Gladwell. There's another Malcolm. I think Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock had a show for a while that was like kind of like social experiment type of shows. Like I think I just like that kind of stuff, even though I shouldn't. We should not continue talking about this. I feel like
No.
we need to move on.
I feel like the only people who ever watch reality TV shows, reality in quotes, because it's a created reality, it's fiction. maybe with a couple nuggets of truth, but they're egging people on. They're trying to get they're trying to get people like 110%. Like the portrayals are not real, and some reality TV shows are straight up scripted.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I've worked on reality shows.
Yeah.
And sometimes things that happen, like accidents, are like, ooh, and they come in with their cameras. And I think I've told this story before where I totally screwed up on a reality TV show as a PA, and they wound up giving the producers some fodder for like an interesting angle. And it was like, wow, I expected to get screamed at, but instead it turned into a bit that got like a minute or two on the show.
What show was it?
It was Behind the Music or one of those shows that's like following a band. No, Making the Band. It was Making the Band, but with like a young rap group.
Oh.
And I totally screwed up. The PA that was, when they were in this recording studio, working with a mentor, the PA that was sitting there pushing the button to start their track at a specific time had to go on a pee break / lunch break. He had to. So I was doing something else, and they're like, hey, come on in, just give him a break. You're here for an hour, because they were there all day. And I said, okay, sure. When do I push the button? It wasn't exactly clear. Like he told me, and then that information was gone. Just gone, and I didn't exactly know. So I'm sitting here next to a CD player with their music, and I'm waiting, and they're like, okay, let's go. Let's do it again, okay? And like the cue came, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is it. Boop. But the music doesn't start instantly. There's like a 10-second delay or something.
Oh, no.
And so they start to go into their little pre-track, preamble, and it totally screwed them up. And they're like way out of sync, and they're like, what is happening? And one of them started to throw a hissy fit, and get all mad. I'm like, oh, no, the producers are going to kill me. But then the mentor comes over, and he's like, no, hold on. What are you going to do if this happens to you in a real concert? You can't just, lose your potatoes, man. Like you got to deal with this. So let's, figure out a strategy. And he like worked them through because they were all like young guys. And I'm sure the producer was over in the corner with their coveted netbook going, oh, what time code is this? I totally screwed it up.
Gosh, you never told me this story before.
But then immediately after, somebody dragging the PA in with his lunch by their arm is like, get back over there. Get out of here. Get out of here. And yeah, whatever I was doing before, I was back doing again. And they did not require me anywhere near the talent for the rest of the shoots. But I was only on there for a couple days. Okay. It was just like, it was their big, not Beacon Theater. What's the one uptown? Maybe it is the Beacon. Like 100 and something up in Harlem.
That's not the Beacon.
I think it's in I think it's on like 111th.
Okay.
Anyway, some kind of theater. It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was where they saw. We rolled up in buses outside the theater, and they saw that Casey and JoJo just came out of the theater from doing a sound check, and we were supposed to leave and be done with the day. And the producers, like if you go overtime, you have to pay all your crew a ton of overtime, like double time. And so we're about to go and leave the theater. We're in our buses already, or these passenger vans, going back to the studio to end the day. And then they're like, yo, it's Casey and JoJo. And the band jumps out of the passenger van. The producer's like, what are you doing? They ran over because it's Casey and JoJo, and they're legends. Like they're that's where they want to be.
Yeah.
Because they grew up on those amazing, like, how would you classify Casey and JoJo? And
I think they're R&B.
Yeah.
I would classify them as R&B. Mm-hmm. I think they would classify themselves as R&B.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to mess it up. So, and then the producer lost her notebook in the hotel that she was staying at, and she forced us all to stay on for hours looking for it and asking the hotel people over and over and over again if they had seen it, because it had all of her notes for the entire season.
No.
Ooh. Did
she ever find it?
She did.
Oh,
but
my God.
it was like, in fact, we never found out how she found it. Oh. It's probably something simple and embarrassing.
Right.
But it was like, oh, what a thing to lose, Oh. It was before everybody just did all the work on their phones.
Right. I remember you used to have to print out directions to get places and stuff.
Yeah. This was the same shoot where I found the script to a reality, so a celebrity game show. Not that, this is not puppeteering or parenting.
Yeah. We gotta bring it back in a second.
So if you ever see a game show that's like a series with celebrities, it is 97% scripted. All of it scripted. And I held an actual script to this game show. And it had the intros, the outros, what they're going to say to people. And they're just like, and it was like Mad Libs where there's a couple of blanks filled in for what the contestant was going to say.
Yeah.
But their questions for the contestant were already written out. Like it was 100% scripted. There's no improv. And I was just impressed. I was like, wow, so every single part is scripted. Amazing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
People want to know what they're getting into if they're like, and also like in a regular game show, most of it's scripted as well. Yeah. Because they'll ask you not that I've been on a game show. That's my dream, people. If anybody has a connection to Supermarket Sweep, it's getting rebooted. And my friend Susie and I are supposed to have a team. Not like that is going to happen in a COVID situation right now, but Susie and I have a pact that we will get on the reboot of Supermarket Sweep and be a team. So, that's a dream. But anyways, they do a pre-interview of you and like find out something interesting. That's why like on Jeopardy, Alex Trebek will always like ask you about like one interesting thing that like you might have mentioned. And then if you're on Jeopardy long enough, they start to like run out of interesting things to ask you about. So then you get more and more personal with your life or whatever.
All right. Are you ready?
What?
So,
you gonna drop a bomb?
The show I was talking about earlier, the Japanese TV show where the person had to live off of winning sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah. What was it called?
It's called, hold on. Sorry. I was like, oh, no, I'm just about to say
Leaving us hanging.
I'm about to say the guy's name. No, so the guy, the comedian's name was
a comedian.
Nasubi. It was a comedian who signed up willingly as like something cool to
I'll
like
try it.
No, to be like, wow, this could be like my big break.
Sure.
Right? I'm gonna be funny and be entertaining on a show where you can only live off of sweepstakes. I can do that.
Yes, it sounds very Morgan Spurlock.
It was very much transformed, this man.
Woo. I have to watch it.
He did not end. And everyone says
What's it called?
Cruel. Hold on.
I guess just Googled Nasubi Japan.
So yeah, if you look up Nasubi, 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 this is the one thing he's known for.
Okay.
So the show is probably called Denpa Shonen Teki Kensho Seikatsu.
Yeah.
But just look up Nasubi, and you will find documentation of what happened to him. But out of all of the reality TV shows, this one is the most real. The most real. You remember like late 90s, the first time they did The Real World on MTV, it wasn't scripted because nobody had ever done anything like it before, where they just literally shoved people together and they documented their lives. And it's more about documentation and shoving together people that were different and seeing what's going to happen.
Yes.
Than like putting together people with sculpted personalities and then like fictionalizing their lives and producers making it happen behind the scenes and like having stuff like this. This is literally just like a man in front of a camera and he can't leave this place until he gets a certain amount of money.
Well, I loved The Real World, by the way. I loved The Real World. The first few seasons I rewatched those episodes so many times, especially the first season because it took place in New York City.
Yeah,
and I loved New York City so much. So anything that I could do to like give me a window into New York City. Like you don't understand how much I love New York City and how hard it is to not be in the city right now. In some ways, I love being here, but I feel like New York has my heart in a lot of ways because I just wanted to be there for so long. Like I remember being at Fredonia and having the internet in my dorm room for the first time and having a computer in my dorm room and then being told, oh, there is a webcam that reloads a picture of Fifth Avenue, a corner on Fifth Avenue every 30 seconds. And I was like, oh, awesome. I can just like look and see New York City whenever I want. And so I would just look at Fifth Avenue and see all the people all the time and just feel like, oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to go there. I'm going to live in New York City. And so The Real World, which came out when I was in high school, happened in New York City. And so that was so exciting. And to see, I remember they had the little spiral staircase that went up to the next floor of their space. And I thought that was the coolest idea ever. Now I know people have them. They're very impractical. They're difficult to go up and down.
I've only seen them in rich people apartments in New York City.
Yeah. I mean, they're space saving, but they're also hard to get up and down.
Well, I've only seen them in apartments where they own multiple floors.
Yes.
So if you have an elevator in your amazing brownstone that takes you from one floor to the next, just throw a little novelty spiral staircase in there. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The last time I was in there was like they were having I was the part of the entertainment for a private party for a very, very rich person's grandson. And they had a spiral staircase, and the kids loved it. And it was carpeted, and they would just like run up, run down, throw balls down, and then the parents like, don't throw things down. Of course, you got to throw things down a spiral staircase. But yeah, that's kind of like how the other half lives with spiral staircases.
Anyway, it looked so dreamy. So between that and then Friends, which was completely unrealistic, I just was like, I pieced together my idea of what New York was like. Mm-hmm. Late 90s New York. But anyway, so all of that to say that I just always loved living in New York, and not living in New York right now is a little, sad.
Pretty different.
But also the city is different. It's not the city that I moved to or that we moved to right now. And then the news, I think it was this last week that we got the news that Broadway is definitely going to be dark until 2021. And then... also, if you're wondering if I'm still a little gray rain cloud about this whole situation, the answer is yes. I don't foresee things getting better for a while. So that's why I'm very mixed about what our future is going to be for our kids and our family and where we're going to end up and stuff. So I do think that people need to, in their minds, be prepared for this to last until at least next spring. But, one person said something that I really have held on to early on when we were talking about, it wasn't me talking to somebody, they were being interviewed. And they said, don't set a date that something's going to be over by. Because every time you get to that date, and then it's not over yet, you lose hope, and you lose it really deflates you. And it takes so much to build that momentum of being able to get through the day-to-day back up again. So they said, don't have an end date, just keep going. Make the best of what it is. You can make some plans, but nothing too far out. And don't say to yourself, it'll definitely be over by this time, because it won't. You don't know that. And each time you get to that date, it's not, it really is demoralizing. And that was speaking about, I believe, getting through the war, like World War II. I was a survivor from World War II. And how did you survive being in such difficult conditions for so long? Mm-hmm. And that was their tip.
Well, that sounds like any kind of project, like you have to set little goals for yourself, and mm-hmm. don't think about like doing the entire thing, because it's just going to seem crazy intimidating. You got to set yourself up for success, mm-hmm. and like make achievable like little goals.
Right.
Like right now I'm like, I have a script to write, but I don't have the concepts and all of the little details down right. So I feel like every single day, if I have like a brain fart about like one good idea, I'm like, great, and I'll write it down, and sometimes that'll turn into a scene, sometimes not. Sometimes it's more like a concept, or like I'll make one drawing, and then I set it aside, and then the next time I have like what I think is a good idea, I go back to that same thread, and I think about like, oh yeah, was that a good idea? Mm-hmm. Like you give yourself some time in between good ideas, in air quotes, to think like, was that really, is that the story that I want to tell? Is this the format that works for that story? Because sometimes I'll like write it all down and be like, wow, that is like a great children's picture book. That is not puppet theater. Oops. Yeah.
But, I think that planning out the next week, the next 2 weeks, and then if you're really looking long term, a month. But that's it. That's as far out as I can plan at this point. Erica says, it's getting so expensive in New York City and my stuff is in storage there. I don't know if I should get it. Feeling the same way. Yeah. I mean, our life is still in New York City. We were only able to bring a small amount of stuff with us to be able to get through the summer. So then there's, fall, and then there's winter, then there's spring, then summer again. I mean, like things are just going to keep happening. And then for me, when I think about what is the best choice for our family and for our kids, it's how can we provide as stable of an existence as possible in the midst of all of this instability. That is where my head is at all times. And it is challenging, especially when, we are still working. I have a job where I have to put in 32 hours a week, 32 clocked hours a week for the Jim Henson Foundation. So I'm very lucky to have that job. Thank you to Cheryl Henson, the president of the Henson Foundation, for, running this amazing foundation. And I get to, be a part of that. And I'm very thankful for that job. But it also, I am scheduling that around teaching my kids, being there for my kids, and then also our puppet company, and trying to find these windows where, okay, I have a block of time right here. This is what I'm working on. Right now we're working on the kids. Hopefully they'll be okay with doing handwriting because that's what they need to be working on. Okay, we have this window of time. When I'm alone here, it's like, it's actually pretty good. Like, I'm very focused. It used to be when like the world is crushing you down. It's hard to like get into the right mental space to actually get the work done sometimes, because like you finally have a moment to breathe, and then it's like, oh God, now I have to do work for other people. But I haven't been experiencing that as much here. I think because I don't have access to the internet very often. So then when I am here, I'm hyper aware that there's no other time that I can get this work done, that it has to be done here and it has to get done right now efficiently. And that if I can get as much done as possible, that's excellent, because that will help everybody. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear from other people about some of the challenges that they're facing right now as being parents too in the midst of all this. Erica says that she thinks that we're doing pretty good with the residency and keeping positive and moving forward and doing these small goals. She says she thinks that we're doing that. So
thanks, Erica.
Yeah, thank you.
We're trying our best. I feel like having I was hearing on the radio that a very smart person was putting in a lot of scientific terms about basically like keeping busy and having a plan and doing something every single day is like the best possible thing you could be doing right now or during like a crisis. If you just sit around being worried, it just eats away at the very molecules and the stress, especially the stress of, let's say, certain Americans, right, that have it less fortunate than we. It eats away at everything, especially your health, if you're stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
So, keeping to the schedule and continuing to stream and continuing to work on stuff is like, not only is it like good for the company, like in the long term, but it's also good for our health in a certain way.
But I'm just gonna be real. Like, I totally fall into the like the late night catching up on news and feeling despair bubble. So if anybody is feeling like, wow, they're so optimistic, they have it together. Like, no, I don't have it together. I'm a mess sometimes, like a total, real, talking at you mess. Because I watch the news and then I just don't know, like, how we're gonna be able to. And then I circle back to, you're thinking too far ahead. Think about the next 3 weeks. What are we doing for the next 3 weeks? You know what we're doing for the next 3 weeks. Great. Stop. Because it just goes whoosh, 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 And then I go and wake up Chad and say, Chad, it's horrible. It's horrible. And he says, go to sleep.
It's like, oh, are you here to hug me? Is this snuggle time? She's like, no, the world.
Oh. Jenny says, your work really helped me, really helped me with my grandson Ben this summer and gave us structure, a schedule, regular things to expect. He has special needs. It's been perfect, and he loves Chad and Wonderspark. And she also said, thank you for being real and open. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing, man. And I really hope that, if you're in a state that you're a part of the country right now that's going through anything similar to what we went through in New York City, and you need somebody to talk to. I know I said this last week, and I just want to reiterate it again. We are here if you want to reach out and have like a real conversation about what's going on with you. And if you don't want to reach out to us because like we're just random people, maybe we've never met before, call somebody. Talk to somebody. There's so many different helplines right now, and you matter and you're special, and we will get through this in some capacity. So don't let the swamp of sadness get you down. We're going to get through this, and you will wake up tomorrow and the day after that. So
that's right.
Yeah. So that's my little PSA. I think I'm just going to say that every week until things feel like they're getting better.
I feel like, so a lot of people are comparing this to, a lot of people that care are comparing this to a war, and that we need to be thinking about it like a war, like we need to be taking this seriously, guys. And it reminds me of like World War I, where they just thought like, oh, we'll just head out, like the English boys would just head off to the war and be back in a couple of weeks, right? And then 5 years later, or however long the war lasted, later they're like, oh, now we can look back with clarity. And now that Broadway is officially not coming back till next year, now it feels like, oh, okay, this is going to be more of like a generational defining moment than anything that all of us Zoomers and millennials or whatever's, like we're complaining about the housing market before it, and income inequality and stuff. No, they remember the time where we all died, or, where like you knew somebody who died, or it was not safe to go out. You had to put your business on pause, and there were people infecting others out in the streets because they weren't wearing masks or being protective at all. Like all of it just feels like crazy. So more crazy than anything else. I don't know. A lot of older people have been saying like on the internet, like, oh guys, when you think really wax nostalgic for your childhood, guess what? The people who were adults during that time were like, oh my God, the world is ending. This is the worst. This is awful and terrible. And so it gives me a little hope to be like, oh no, like we're going through bad times all the time. Like this is a bad time right now, but I bet that our kids and your kids in like 10 years, 20 years will be like, oh man, remember when we just had like endless summer vacation?
I don't know. I can't think about that. But here's the thing. I hear you speaking with such joy and clarity about that, and I'm like, I'm not there. Mm-hmm. I am not there, and I actually can't visualize that because I don't see an end yet. I don't see an end, and I don't know what that end is going to look like. And I am one of anybody who really knows me knows that I am severely optimistic. Like I am so optimistic, it is a fault because people sometimes don't believe me. They think I'm being sarcastic. I just really believe in the power of people, the power of collective intention. But this situation, from the beginning, I have been a dark gray rain cloud about because I don't see how it's going to get better yet. And the things that I'm the most concerned about, the election in November,
right?
A civil war,
okay,
and our general well-being and safety. Like these are the things that like I have it like if we're gonna like say like okay, well what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? That's where I'm at right now.
Well, you can cross Civil War off the list because
no, I can't.
Because even though people out there right now are doing their best to try and incite race riots and other things, There's another whole like half of the country that are like, no, and a lot of those people are getting sick, and they had their statues taken away, statues that they just suddenly cared about.
There's a lot
and their flags taken away.
There is a lot of collective anger and frustration on both sides, and there is no unifying voice right now, and the election is full speed ahead, and I just remember how contentious the last election was, and none of this was going on. So I am really nervous about that, about the outcome either way, if the election even is going to take place.
It will.
You sound so calm and optimistic about that. I have concerns. I have concerns.
So look at, was it Wisconsin? Where they removed a lot of polling places, or is it Oregon?
No, that was
who
Kentucky.
most recently
It was Kentucky.
Kentucky. A lot of people voted through the mail, and maybe we don't have that like nationally, but people on both sides of the aisle are going to line up, for hours or for however long it takes, to get their voices counted.
Wisconsin had in-person elections when they should not have because of the virus.
That's what I'm talking about.
That happened early on, like in March, I think, or April. I don't know. Those months just kind of.
And the governor said, "Hey guys, let's do mail-in voting, please." And their Supreme Court said no, but they still had it anyway.
So yeah, but you know what? I talked to a friend of mine who's originally from, I believe, Sierra Leone, and her daughter is adopted and from that country as well. And one of the things that she said to me, and she works with displaced refugees in New York City. This is one of the jobs that she does, and she's an advocate for them and finds housing and food for them and jobs. And she said, so many kids in the entire world lose at least a year of school because of something that has happened in their country, in their family, in their lives. This is the first time that America has really felt that kind of disruption. It's normal. And that really took me for a second because, she was speaking from a place of wisdom that I hadn't even thought about in terms of like, this is just regular life. Oh, this is the year that we're going to not have school. Like, okay, we're just not going to have school. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we're not going to have school because we're still trying to figure that out. We're having school, but again, we're only doing like a little bit every day, but we're doing it every day. The kids don't get a day off. They do it every single day.
That's right.
Erica says, this change is uncomfortable, but needs to happen. All of this needs to happen to create great change. I agree. I think that this period of time is historical in so many ways, and that we are living through a moment that is, going to be written about, remembered, and reflected on for so many years to come. You know, how they, like, the History Channel is, like, addicted to World War II. I feel like this is going to be in there, too. Because there's so much happening right now. There's so much at stake. And all we can do is try to be the best that we can be and stay safe. And if you can't stay safe, reach out and get the help that you need. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm really concerned about everybody. I think that's the thing that that also just keeps me up and makes me not feel okay, even though I'm in this idyllic village and getting to see beautiful skies every night with stars in them and hearing crickets and deer and things like that. This underlying level of concern for my friends and my family and people I love and people I've never even met, because I just know that they're people that other people care about. There's just been so much death, and it's really hard to handle so much all at once. And I'm constantly thinking, like, the thing that, like, is really hard is the incubation period, that we could be sick, not know it, and then inadvertently hurt other people. And I can't even handle it when somebody is mad at me for a day. Like, what if I accidentally hurt somebody to a point where they got sick? because I didn't know that I had it. I mean, when we're doing all these interviews, Max is a puppet, so he doesn't have a mask on. We are wearing masks the whole time. But a lot of the people that we're interviewing, it's half and half. Some of these industries are outdoors, so they don't need to wear masks because they're outdoors and they're working alone. Other industries, they're indoors, and it can go either way. Some of them are wearing masks and some of them aren't wearing masks, but we're in a village that didn't go through the New York City situation. And so when people say to me, we don't need to wear masks, I say, you know what? We were in New York City for 3 months during like hell. And I care about you, so I'm just going to wear my mask because that just makes me feel safer that I'm going to be, respectful of your space and what you need.
And I feel like those people interacting with you or with us, hearing directly from us about our reasoning for that, I feel like that's positive. You know, and each time, even though I could tell there was some, we didn't talk politics, let's say, but there were some. There were some Trump-Pence signs around some of the interviewees, let's say, who shall remain nameless. But we didn't go into any of that. We all got together and we had a good time and we joked and we're super friendly and we're friends now. And the more we interact on like a base level instead of like screaming at each other on social media or hearing the terrible things on the news, the better.
I don't, and I don't hate anybody really, and I'm always willing to have a conversation. So, but I didn't see any of those signs, by the way.
I did not tell you where I saw them.
That's fine.
But it's not surprising.
I don't need to know.
It's not surprising.
I don't need to know. And everybody that we met, they're really kind, wonderful people.
Yeah,
so.
and it's super cool. And for once, politics didn't enter into the equation. Like you don't have to know somebody's stance on these hot button issues to tell them about what you do for a living and how cool your job is,
Yeah.
So in that way,
well, that's why
we're uniting people.
Well, that's why it's like Mr. Rogers meets Dirty Jobs. Because if you guys have watched Mike Rowe on Dirty Jobs, if anybody knows Mike, this is my outlet for getting all the connections. I am such a huge fan of Mike Rowe and his show, and I heard he has a new show out, so I have to see it. For you. Okay, you got something to share? Anyway, I love that show, and I love Mike Rowe, and I'm so inspired by his work. And he has a phrase that he says sometimes.
What's he say?
He says, think about what you're doing, not how you're doing. And I use that a lot when I'm teaching because I love that phrase. And he used it when he was going up a suspension bridge. Like he was a construction worker on a suspension bridge and had to go all the way up to the very tippy top to like replace a light bulb, I think. And he was really scared. And he was like, think about what you're doing, not how you're doing, what, not how, what, not how. And he's like going up the things and like clicking off, clicking on. And anyway. What are the people saying?
Jenny says it's important that we have empathy for others.
Yes.
For each person's story and point of view. Love should be at the center of our being. That will get us through.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love saves the day.
Well, and that's Max. Max is love. Max is just an inquisitive little detective who likes to have some mischief, but overall he's just really kind. And that's why I like using them. And Erica says, I can't wait to see these puppet interviews. I know. I feel the same way. And I hope that no matter what ends up happening with us and like where we end up, that we will continue it. Because I think it's a really great series. And like it's something that's really, I don't know, it gives me a chance to perform. I don't get to perform that much for the company right now because I love to perform, but I have a hard time memorizing the scripts right now because mom brain, and that is still very real. It's hard for me.
That was Bette Midler's excuse too.
She's a mom too. It's just hard. It's hard to remember the lines. So Bette, fellow New Yorker, I hear ya. It's hard to memorize all that stuff. It's like it's a muscle and you have to work up to it. And then once you have it, you can use it all the time. But if you don't use it all the time, whoo.
Yeah.
And even in TV puppetry, when I get those kind of gigs, you don't have to memorize that. You just you look it over, you fold it up, you put it next to your monitor, and then you read it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a good reader. But this is all improv, so.
Yeah, so we want to thank everybody
Oh,
for
who are we
listening.
thanking? Oh, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. We are the Puppet Parent Podcast. You can listen to us every single week. We go live on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time out in the Fallout Shelter in Western New York at this moment. But yeah, we're on all kinds of... Ooh, hold on, I'm just going to get the list out. There it is.
Oh, so many things.
We're on Spotify. We're on Overcast, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Radio Public. I mean, like all your favorite podcast things. We're on it. Or you can check out our RSS feed or just download our MP3s straight up from our website over at puppetparentpodcast.com. I want to leave you with a little tease.
What is it?
For not this weekend, but our next weekend's Mystery Max video, which was Z had her puppet on, and we're at the auction house.
Yes.
And we nearly got bowled over by a 550-pound boar.
Yeah, huge pig. Huge pig.
They're trying to get the pig from where it was sleeping into a pickup truck, and we're in between, and then the guy's whacking this thing's butt in the back, and we're like, it's coming right for us.
I know that, and I hid behind Chad. I totally human shielded it for a second. I was like, Chad, you can stand right there, and I will be behind you. Love you.
We lived.
We did.
We lived. We lived.
It's all good.
Yeah, and I put it in the video.
You did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy. Well. All that is to say, thanks so much for listening. If you have questions, post them in the comments. We'll answer them next week, or you can send us an email or Facebook Messenger. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our Facebook page or YouTube channel. Share this if you think that anybody else might be interested. We want them to know about what we are talking about.
Yeah.
You know, we're just a couple of puppeteers and family people who happen to have kids, parents. And we have a podcast. And that's the Puppet Parent Podcast. And we'll see you next Sunday.
Next Sunday, yo.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching and listening.